So with that little snippet, I'm obviously hoping to try to get across the idea that Buddhism is an approach that calls upon us to basically think for ourselves, to look inside, to hear input from others, but to determine how to proceed based on what makes sense to us, rather than on the basis of authority. Then, as the next slide shows, I'll be getting into the Four Noble Truths, but I'm not going to get into it in depth. I'll probably characterize it as being analogous in some sense to the functions of a physician. Namely, dukkha in a sense is the diagnosis, the arising of dukkha is the etiology or the cause, the cessation is the prognosis, namely that it can be addressed, and then of course the path being the cure. And then what I'll probably emphasize is the idea that the Buddha taught that the way to transcend, if you will, dukkha is to address the issue of craving. And so it is possible to attain liberation, and that, within the Theravadan approach, this is characterized as nirvana. So here, even though obviously the Dalai Lama is a Tibetan Buddhist, I wanted to insert a quote by him indicating, "This is my simple religion. There is no need for temples, no need for complicated philosophy. Our own brain, our own heart is our temple. The philosophy is kindness," close quote. And then I portray in the next slide a picture of the Dalai Lama. And then, of course, getting into the nitty-gritty of the Eightfold Path, which, again, most of you who are watching this video are well aware of, or if you want to get into it more deeply, there are, I'm sure, videos and written materials that explain this in a great deal of depth. But it does involve these features of right understanding, right thought or intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So these are ethical kinds of dimensions. These are behavioral kinds of dimensions. And I think Gil Fronsdal, who does the Audio Dharma podcast, made the point that, right it should not be interpreted in the framework of right versus wrong. It's more what right means is wholesome and skillful approaches to thought and action that lead to positive outcomes in terms of peace of mind and positive social relationships. So anyhow, a great path here for those that wish to study it and pursue it with diligence within the Theravada kind of approach. I also, in this next slide, want to flesh it out a little more in kind of a more down-to-earth sort of how does this apply to our daily lives kind of notion. And I'll probably actually read through these various snippets within this particular slide. And then the instructor, he will indicate that I will be essentially giving some guidance relative to a meditation kind of instruction. And what I plan to do then is to read selected portions of the guided meditation on mindfulness, which is basically a Vipassana type approach, in Chapter 5 of Stephen Levine's a wonderful book called A Gradual Awakening.